Welcome to MangaCafts, the place where I bring our favorite anime worlds to life. Whether it's legendary locations, iconic buildings, or unforgettable objects. If it exists in anime, I'll find a way to recreate it. And today, we're taking on one of the craziest battlegrounds in One Piece, the Mirror World. A twisted, wavy dimension filled with floating mirrors, surreal landscapes, and the stage for a turning point in Luffy's journey. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. That help the channel to grow. I started by taking all my leftover foam from past projects. You know, the stuff I should have thrown away months ago but kept just in case. Well, today's the case. As you saw in the intro, this build is made up of 2 walls and 2 undulating monoliths. Their shape is kind of like an upside-down teardrop, giving the scene that surreal, distorted feel. To create these teardrop-shaped monoliths, I started by gluing together leftover foam pieces from old projects. This helped me build up the basic shape before refining it into something more organic. I quickly realized that I needed more volume to create a well-proportionate monolith, so I added extra pieces of foam. This made it much easier to sculpt the shape I was aiming for. To improve stability and reinforce the structure, I filled some gaps with hot glue. This also helped smooth out the surface, making the next steps much easier. For the walls, I picked out the flattest and smoothest pieces of foam. I had to create a clean base before adding volume to shape that undulating, wavy effect later. But, since I was low on clean, flat foam pieces, I needed to find another way. So for the second wall, I used repurposed medic boxes as a base. It's amazing how you can give old materials a second chance, turning what others might see as trash into something new and beautiful. Nothing is wasted here. Every bit of foam, every old box has potential. After all, nothing is lost, everything is transformed. Now that our 2 walls are shaped, it's time to assemble them. I fill the gap between them with foam, then smooth it out with a Dremel first, and finish it off with sandpaper. Alright, we're ready to move on to the next step. First, I apply a thin layer of plaster to fill any gaps or imperfections. The goal is to create a smooth, even surface. This step is key to ensuring a clean base for painting later. Once everything's dry, I gently smooth the surfaces with soft sandpaper. There are still small holes, cavities, and imperfections, but most of them have been smoothed out. Now, I'll use polymer clay to fill in the last few details. I also refine the shape of the monoliths when needed. I add polymer clay to create smooth curves, especially when the surface is too flat. I glue both pieces together, making sure they're solid and well secured. With polymer clay and a finished coat, I clean up the joint and eliminate any imperfections. Now it's time to start painting. I begin with a first coat of white acrylic to create an even base. Not completely satisfied with the uniformity, I add a second coat of light gray. Now, I can focus on replicating the colors of the mirror world with purple, pink, and red shades. For each of these colors, I need both a light and dark tone to paint the checkerboard pattern. I'll apply the light tones to all the surfaces first, then outline the grid before filling in the darker tiles. Well, with the bulk of the work done, I'm now fixing both elements onto the base and starting to connect the surfaces. I use mesh joint tape to strengthen the bond between the walls and the monoliths, ensuring a solid connection. Then, I fill the gaps with plaster before applying the final layer of joint compound. I connect the grid pattern on the monoliths to the one on the walls. It's a bit tricky and messy, but it worked out better than I expected. Let's finish this step by painting the remaining squares. Oh, and before I start making those tiny mirrors, I clean up all the edges and paint them with a dark gray tone. Alright, to create the mirrors that will cover our diorama, I'll need a few materials. First, balsa wood sheets, a lightweight, easy to cut material, perfect for crafting the mirror frames. Next, aluminum wire, which I'll bend into decorative shapes to add intricate details to the mirrors. I'll also use tiny wood chips to add subtle, natural textures for extra realism. Alright, now let's see how I did it. I start by defining the mirror frames, making sure to include a variety of shapes to achieve a more realistic and dynamic result. I sketch out different forms, squares, diamonds, ovals, circles, rectangles, and even stars, all in various sizes to add visual interest. To get a perfect circle shape, I use a Dremel with a circle cutting attachment for a clean, precise result. Once the frames are all cut, it's time to bring them to life. I use aluminum wire in different thicknesses, which I carefully glue along the edges and onto the frames to add intricate details. There's no fixed design here, Jess. Let your creativity take over. You can create anything that comes to mind, so trust your imagination. And if you ever find yourself stuck for ideas, you can always search for inspiration on Google. Here's an easy method to add even more variety to your tiny mirrors. Simply sprinkle some small wood chips around the frames. This creates random natural details that make the mirrors feel more authentic. Since these are tiny elements, precise ornamental decorations can be tricky, but this simple technique produces a stunning effect with minimal effort. You can also leave some mirror frames undecorated. In my case, it's not an issue because I have plenty of mirrors, and it actually enhances the realism of the scene. Leaving some frames bare can really add to the authenticity of the diorama. It gives the impression that these mirrors belong to a lived-in space. Using a variety of mirrors makes the scene feel less artificial and more natural. Once all the mirrors were shaped, I painted them in metallic tones that match what you see in the anime: silver, purple, white, and gold. The tiny details I added earlier will create natural shadows and help bring depth and dimension to the mirrors, avoiding a flat look, further enhancing the realism of the scene. Now that the mirror frames are all set, it's time to make them look like real mirrors. I use high-temperature aluminum tape for this. It doesn't reflect like a real mirror, but it gives off that mirror-like vibe. I just glue the frames onto it and trim them to match the mirror shapes. Simple, effective, and it gives an impressive result. To complete the build, I'll glue all the mirrors onto the undulating base. Hope you had fun watching me recreate a piece from your favorite manga. Drop a comment to let me know what you think of this new format. Now I'll let you check out the final result. If you enjoyed this, I'll see you in the next one.
ここなら存分に戦える。